So, Tom, you've completed thousands of financial plans. In your experience, where do most couples have issues seeing face to face in their financial plan? And do you think there are topics that should be figured out before they come to you with their plan?
Well, that's a really good question. Uh, this happens a lot. Two people coming from two different environments that get married together very rarely have exactly the same outlook on finances. I mean, I don't know what the stats are anymore, but in terms of like arguments, finances are supposed to be in the top three or what have you. And that is because sometimes it's just like two different scenarios coming together. And of course, some of that has to be worked out. Now, I would say you want to work it out as much as possible with your financial advisor in front of a retirement plan because you may be trying to work something out that doesn't need to be. Until you know what the parameters are and what the issues are, you might be, trying to figure something out that you don't have to. So, for example, one of the things that comes up very often is the risk level can be quite different for each person in that union. And that's not that difficult to accommodate because somebody has their IRAs and so we say, okay, you get your risk level, the other person has their IRAs or individual accounts, you get your risk level. And then really the only things that really have to be figured out are the joint type accounts, the trust accounts, the things that are, that are together. And you can oftentimes we just end up doing, hey, one person is 80% stock and the other person is, 40% stock. And then maybe the joint accounts are 60. I mean, I've dealt with that a lot. I mean, matter of fact, that's more common than the opposite, where people are exactly on the same page in terms of their risk. Spending is a big one. Although by the time somebody gets to me, usually they've figured out some of the spending parts, as far as that goes. And you have to accommodate that. One person wants to spend more, the other person doesn't, or, those types of things. Uh, and it's interesting to watch. There's a lot of couples therapy that happens really in terms of a financial plan. I do think having the plan and having sort of I remember, situations where somebody wanted to pay off the mortgage immediately, and another person wanted to keep the money invested because it was doing well. And we split the difference and we created an accelerated, plan that would pay it off, I think in 7 years, 5 years, something like that. And that made them both happy, right? And we went along and we're executing that and we're putting that money and it's going to be paid off. And both of them were happy. Whereas before, they were going kind of an either or and there was no middle ground. And so sometimes meeting with a professional, we can craft a middle ground. More importantly, we can go through and take the financial plan and see if it works. What happens if we pay it all off? What happens if we don't pay it off? Just pay the minimum. What happens if we pay it off in 5 years and see how does that impact the overall scenario? What's the smart answer to that? And you don't have those tools at home when you're sitting there talking about these things as far as that goes. And so that, there's a whole bunch of kind of middle ground scenarios that can be created where both people feel pretty good. I've been through this a lot. I mean, I've done over 6,000 financial plans and worked with, thousands of clients, year after year after year. And so I get to see, and they're not all these situations are the same. There is still some conflict in some areas, and then some other people have zero conflict. There's definitely different couples, there's no doubt. But generally speaking, I haven't seen anything that wasn't, accomplishable in terms of finding that right spot ever really, as far as that goes. So it's a great question though. It is a big issue. And I've read that a lot of couples don't like to come in to see financial planners because they feel like, it's too difficult. They're embarrassed that they don't have it organized and they don't have a cohesive strategy. But I'll tell you what, you're actually in the majority if you don't have a cohesive strategy. That's in my opinion. But don't be afraid to come in because we can help. We can kind of create a scenario that finds a middle ground, that I think can work oftentimes. And again, we have some great tools and a lot of experience. I've been through a lot of plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can always like adjust goals and stuff like that. You can come in with like a stake in the ground, and then maybe you could retire 2 years earlier rather than working, and that makes you a lot happier.
Yep.
And we can adjust based on just having that plan in front of us. We give gives us so much flexibility in testing all your scenarios.
Yeah, I shudder to think about how many people right now are retiring and deciding to retire without a plan. It's a kind of crazy thought process. It's the biggest financial decision you'll make in your whole life. It beats out getting married, it beats out having kids go to college, all these things. It's a really big issue, and then all the pieces that come in together with that. And so, and it's not going to enhance a scenario where the couple isn't agreeing on things because they don't have the tools to kind of figure out where that middle ground is and whether that middle ground even works. And so, yeah, I think we can kind of do exactly that, try to accommodate and figure out different scenarios. And again, we've been through this thousands of times, so it's a good chance that we could help you.